Every man dreams. Every woman envisions a life beyond the limits of their current circumstances. But dreams, no matter how grand, are nothing but shadows unless they are backed by deliberate, consistent action. And the force that transforms those fleeting visions into tangible realities is discipline. Discipline is not a word to be feared. It is a word to be revered. For within it lies the golden key that opens the doors of personal power, accomplishment, and greatness. Discipline is the bridge that connects desire to achievement. Without it, all plans remain unfinished blueprints, all potential remains untapped, and all ambition dies in the comfort of good intentions. You may have talent, but without discipline it is wasted. You may have ideas, but without discipline they are forgotten. You may have energy, but without discipline it is scattered and useless. The world does not reward the one who starts, it rewards the one who finishes. And finishing requires discipline. Discipline is the ability to command yourself, to do what must be done when it must be done, whether you feel like it or not. It is the trait that sets apart the extraordinary from the ordinary. Because while the masses follow their moods, the disciplined individual follows their mission. It begins with simple acts, waking up early, completing what you start, refusing to negotiate with laziness, saying no to distraction, showing up when you'd rather lie down. These moments may seem small, but in them lie the foundations of empires, for he who conquers himself becomes the master of his world. Do not make the mistake of waiting for discipline to appear out of thin air. It is not inherited, it is not gifted, it is earned. One decision at a time. Each day you are faced with hundreds of choices, to press forward or to pause, to rise or to retreat, to persist or to postpone. Every time you choose the harder path, the one your future self will thank you for, you strengthen your discipline, you build a habit of greatness. Now understand this. The disciplined life is not a life of restriction. It is a life of power. When you are ruled by emotion, you become a slave to circumstance. When you are ruled by discipline, you become the master of outcome. You gain the rarest of all freedoms, the ability to direct your destiny with purpose. Most people will never know this power. They are governed by convenience. They chase pleasure and avoid pain. And in doing so, they remain small, average, and unseen. But you must not follow that path. You must hold yourself to a higher standard. Discipline must become your creed, not because it is easy, but because it is necessary. You cannot wait until you feel like doing the work. Feelings are fleeting. Discipline is enduring. When the feeling fades, it is discipline that carries you through. When doubt creeps in, it is discipline that silences it with action. When fatigue whispers, just stop, it is discipline that shouts back, keep going. And as you continue, you will begin to notice something miraculous. With each disciplined act, your confidence grows. You begin to trust yourself. You begin to walk with certainty. You begin to realize that there is no obstacle too great, no goal too distant, no dream too bold. So long as you have the discipline to pursue it daily, you don't need to move mountains in a single day. You only need to do what is required today, and then again tomorrow, and the day after that, one disciplined step at a time. The results will not be immediate, but they will be inevitable. Look at the life you desire. Picture it in vivid detail, then ask yourself, am I living in alignment with that vision, or am I simply wishing, hoping, and talking? Because the life you want does not respond to wishes, it responds to work. And work requires discipline, so build it, strengthen it, live by it. Let discipline be your daily companion, your inner ally, your quiet guide when the world tempts you with shortcuts and excuses. Because when the moment of opportunity arrives, and it will, those without discipline will falter. But you, forged by your daily decisions, sharpened by your repeated refusals to quit, will rise, and you will claim what you've earned. Discipline is the difference between dreaming and doing, between wishing and winning, between who you are and who you're destined to become. There are two forces that have shackled more potential, crushed more dreams, and buried more ambition than failure ever could: fear and doubt. These are not physical enemies. They do not wear uniforms or bear weapons. They exist solely in the mind, yet their influence is powerful enough to paralyze the strongest of spirits. Fear whispers lies. It says, "You're not ready." Doubt echoes, "You're not enough." Together, they build walls between you and your destiny. They disguise themselves as protectors, convincing you that hesitation is safety, but understand this: fear and doubt do not keep you safe. They keep you small. You were not born with fear, you were taught it. It was handed to you by voices that did not believe, by circumstances that seemed overwhelming, by experiences that left wounds. But the truth is this: fear is nothing but imagination twisted against you. It projects disaster, magnifies failure, and convinces you that danger lies in effort. Doubt is the twin brother of fear. It disguises itself as reason. It questions every decision, second, guesses every plan, and demands that you prove your worth before you begin. But doubt is a thief. It robs you of the courage to start, the persistence to continue, and the confidence to finish. So what is the cure for these enemies of progress? What weapon shall you use to shatter these invisible chains? Action is the hammer that breaks fear into pieces. Action is the flame that burns through the fog of doubt. Action is the one thing fear and doubt cannot survive, because fear lives in anticipation. Doubt thrives in inaction, but the moment you take a single step forward, they begin to weaken. Think of a time you were afraid to do something. Speak your truth, start a journey, face a challenge. Think of how powerful the fear seemed before you acted. And then remember how much smaller it became after you did. That is the secret, that is the formula. Action shrinks fear every single time, but you must not wait for the fear to vanish before you act. You must move in spite of it. That is courage, not the absence of fear, but the conquest of it. And the way you conquer fear is not by studying it, analyzing it, or wishing it away. You overwhelm it with motion. You do the thing you fear, and the fear will die. The same holds true for doubt. Doubt cannot stand in the face of evidence, and evidence is built through action. When you take consistent steps forward, no matter how small, you prove to yourself that you are capable, that you can trust your instincts, that you do not need every answer to begin. The more you act, the more you realize that your doubts were illusions, smoke with no substance. You will never eliminate fear and doubt entirely. They will knock on your door often, especially when you aim higher than you've ever aimed before. But you do not have to invite them in. You do not have to feed them. You simply take action, again and again, and soon they will lose their grip. There is no power like the power of a man or woman who acts in the face of fear. It is a sacred power, born not of arrogance, but of alignment with one's purpose. You do not wait until you feel fearless. You act until fear no longer controls your steps. Do not let your mind be a prison. You are the warden, you hold the key, and that key is action. Every time you choose to move forward, you chip away at the bars that hold you back. Every time you silence the voice of doubt with determination, you reclaim another inch of your freedom. The person you wish to become is on the other side of fear. The life you desire is waiting beyond the borders of doubt. But you must walk through those gates, not once, but daily. You must train yourself to act even when the ground beneath you trembles. You must develop the habit of forward motion, even if your hands shake and your voice quivers. In time, fear and doubt will no longer be your masters. They will become background noise. Their voices may never disappear entirely, but they will grow quieter with each courageous step. And one day, you will look back and see that the thing you once feared became the path you mastered. That the doubt that once paralyzed you now stands defeated under your feet, because you did not wait for permission. You took action, and action made you free. There is a dangerous misunderstanding that has quietly poisoned the minds of men and women with great potential. It is the belief that one must feel like taking action in order to begin, that motivation must strike first, like a lightning bolt, before movement is possible, but this belief is a lie, and worse than that, it is a lie that delays destiny. The truth is that motivation is fleeting. It is a guest that comes and goes. It cannot be depended upon. If you are waiting to feel ready, to feel energized, to feel inspired before you act, you will wait forever. The great accomplishments of the world were not born from constant motivation. They were born from people who moved anyway. It is not emotion that builds an empire. It is discipline. It is not inspiration that creates success. It is decision. Success does not care how you feel. It is not interested in your mood. It responds only to your movement, to the forward thrust of your will against resistance. You must train yourself to act, whether you feel like it or not. Because the magic, the momentum, the clarity you seek, they do not come before you act. They come because you act. The man who waits for motivation is like a farmer who waits for the harvest before he plants the seed. It is backward, it is foolish. The soil of success demands that you move first, that you sow, that you sweat, that you labor. Then the rewards come. Now, consider the way you behave when you are truly determined. When your back is against the wall, when something must be done, in those moments you do not consult your feelings, you simply act. That same energy is available to you every day if you choose it. Action is the catalyst of all transformation. Motivation may open the door, but it is action that carries you through it. Every day you delay, you reinforce weakness. Every time you act, you reinforce strength. And strength, my friend, is built like a muscle through repetition, not emotion. How many mornings have you woken up without desire, without fire, without that surge of energy you thought you needed, and how many of those days were salvaged, elevated, by the simple act of beginning? By showing up and pushing forward regardless of your emotional weather, you must become the type of individual who is not led by emotion, but led by mission. Mission does not ask for your feelings, it demands your commitment. Your vision must become stronger than your moods. Your standards must become higher than your circumstances. Do not misunderstand, motivation is a gift when it arrives, but you do not need a gift to get to work. You only need resolve. You only need the conviction that your goals matter enough to act even when the heart is heavy, even when the mind is weary. There is a hidden law in the universe that favors the man who acts. Motion creates momentum. One step forward generates the energy for the next. The moment you begin to move, even in the smallest way, you shift your entire state. Thoughts sharpen, focus returns, energy awakens. But none of this occurs while you remain still, waiting for a spark. The spark is not found, it is created. By movement, you have within you a source of power greater than any temporary motivation. It is called habit. Build the habit of action, and you will never again be enslaved to inspiration. You will rise, work, and progress on command. That is true freedom. That is true mastery. So the next time you do not feel like moving, remind yourself that is the very moment you must. Not because it's easy, not because it's fun, but because that act is the very act that builds you into someone worthy of success. Do not ask your feelings for permission. Act, and your feelings will catch up. The difference between the successful and the struggling is rarely talent or opportunity. It is almost always this: the successful move consistently and persistently regardless of motivation. They have learned that action is not a result, it is a cause. And they use it daily to bend the future to their will. So rise, move, begin, not tomorrow, not when the mood is right, not when you're inspired, begin now, because the first step forward is the spark that lights the fire. And once the fire is lit, there is nothing that can stand in your way. There are two kinds of pain in life. One is sharp, immediate, and temporary. The other is silent, invisible, and eternal. One comes from doing what must be done. The other comes from avoiding it. The first is the pain of action. The second is the pain of regret, and you must choose, because no man escapes both. The pain of action demands something of you. It pulls at your energy, tests your patience, stretches your limits. It asks you to rise before the sun, to work when you'd rather rest, to push forward when your body screams for relief. But listen well, this pain, though it bites, is fleeting. It fades. It turns into pride, into strength, into character. The pain of regret, however, does not fade. It lingers, it festers, it speaks to you in the quiet hours of the night. It reminds you of the chances you didn't take, the goals you let die, the person you could have been had you only acted when you had the chance. One is the sting of discipline, the other is the slow poison of disappointment. The man who pushes through the discomfort of action pays a price now to earn freedom later, but the man who avoids that pain delays it, only to suffer it multiplied and magnified down the line. You may think you are escaping the hardship by procrastinating, by retreating, by waiting for an easier time, but you are not escaping. You are accumulating debt, and regret is always paid in full. The cost of effort is nothing compared to the cost of a wasted life. So when the moment comes, and it will, when you feel tired, when your mind whispers, take it easy, you must look ahead. Ask yourself, how will I feel if I quit now? How will I feel if I let this opportunity pass? You must learn to think beyond the temporary and feel the weight of long-term loss. That's where true power comes from, not from talent or timing, but from perspective. From seeing clearly that the difficulty you face today is nothing compared to the regret that waits in the shadows if you don't face it. You were not born to be a spectator in your own life. You were not put here to watch others win while you wonder what could have been. You were designed to act, to move, to build and create and endure. And yes, that will require pain, but it is the kind of pain that makes you more, not less. Consider this, the pain of lifting a heavy weight lasts for minutes, but the strength it builds can last a lifetime. The pain of early mornings may test you for weeks, but the discipline it cultivates becomes the foundation of your success. These are wise trades, small suffering in exchange for greatness. But what do you get from avoiding the pain of effort? Numbness, disappointment, weakness, and one day the bitter taste of regret when you realize the time is gone and cannot be recovered. Regret is a ghost. It haunts. It reminds you that you had more in you, but you chose comfort instead of courage. It follows you, not loudly, but persistently, echoing in your thoughts, reminding you of roads not taken, of words not spoken, of risks not dared. There is a way to avoid that ghost. Act. Do what must be done when it must be done. Face the discomfort head on. Embrace the burn, the fatigue, the fear, the uncertainty, because on the other side of all that pain is the life you desire, the strength, the clarity, the legacy. Remember, the pain of action builds you. It shapes you into someone who can carry success, who can handle adversity, who can lead others. The more you lean into it, the more it rewards you, but the pain of regret, it does nothing but drain. It gives you nothing in return but sorrow and longing. So choose wisely. When the pain of the present feels unbearable, ask yourself, will this hurt more now, or forever if I don't follow through? There is no greatness without a price. And the price is always discomfort, but it is discomfort with a purpose, and that kind of pain is beautiful, because it leads to growth. One day you will look back. Make sure what you see fills you with pride, not pain. Let your future self thank you, not mourn you. Act boldly now, so you never have to whisper, I wish I had. Because the pain of doing is temporary, but the pain of not doing, that lasts a lifetime.